So welcome to the very simple modeling part of this course. We're going to use Blender with Evee for 2D motion graphics, usually the realm of After Effects. But now with Evee we can actually render these elements wickedly fast in Blender as well. We're going to discuss render layers, why we would use render layers, so we could swap out an element easily, just render a single frame if it is the same in all the sequence, and then use that to make a new look from the compositor. We're going to do some very basic animation, very basic UV unwrapping. So basically it's a very basic modeling tutorial. Unlike Andrew Price, that guy is wickedly good and it's so frustrating to watch. It's annoying. He's so good. Let's start blendering anyways. We will make up for it in compositing. Alright, come on. So today we will be doing a bit of motion graphics in Blender. Usually you do this sort of thing in After Effects. We're going to make a radar screen on a CRT, one of those old-fashioned ones that you see in the 50s through the 80s. The majority of this comes from compositing, so we're going to jump right in. The modeling is easy, the compositing is intermediate, and then we're going to track and put it into a shot in my car, because I don't have a jet fighter or a license to fly one either. So we're going to jump right in. A to select everything, X to delete it, then Shift A, camera to add a new camera, Alt R to clear the rotation, grab Z, and we're going to pull it up, 0 to look through the camera, and this is where we're going to be all the time, because it's a 2D thing that we're going to make, because the screen is per definition two-dimensional. Now here's where we have to think about how large it should be and what the aspect ratio it is. We're going to make a round radar screen, one of those old ground-based radars or the one that you see in old planes. And I actually did a couple for TV series. So it will be logical to make it a square aspect ratio to fit the circle perfectly. Although we're going to comp it into a 16:9 aspect ratio in my car, but for good measure we're going to keep it square because we're making a round radar. So we're going to the render settings, and this is where we need to figure out how large it should be. If you shoot in 2K, then obviously there is no use of making the resolution higher unless you would zoom in on the screen itself, on details in the screen. Since we're not going to do that, we're going to keep with a square aspect ratio of 2:48. There we go. Now we're going to Shift A and add a circle. There we go. We're going to scale it down. We do a Shift D, not Alt D, Shift D, and you see why later. And press S and press 2. Then we select the center one again, Shift D, S, 3. Select the center one, Shift D, S, 4. Select the center one, Shift D, S, 5. So we have two circles radiating outwards. This is the distance indicator of the objects coming in. We scale them up to fit our comp a bit, so that is kind of nice. I said comp, here that After Effects talk. Ooh, sorry about that. We'll tap into edit mode, E to extrude, and we extrude it, S to scale, sorry, and we scale it out just the tiniest of bit. And now we see a problem with 3D is, since we scaled out these outer rings, the width is wider because it's proportional to the scale. So we need to tweak this scale to fit it to be that center one. So we'll tap into edit mode, Alt select the outer ring of the one, and we S to scale it down. Alt select, scale it down. There's no need to be precise in this case. Alt select, scale it down. Alt select, scale it down. Down, not out. So there we go. There's no need to be really exact in this thing, and you can tweak it as much as you like. Ctrl J to make it one object for the simple reason, and we're going to call this distance circles. Circles. Typing is difficult. Distance circles. For the simple reason that we're going to apply a modifier on it, and we want to do it just once. Set it to 3. Now it's nice and smooth, otherwise, as you could see, it was a bit jagged. We don't want that. And we're going to give it a texture. Now this texture is very important because it's going to emit light. So obviously it's going to be a emission shader. We set it to 2 and we'll make it this phosphor green. Even though in the comp eventually it will be orange. So we will be grading it, and I will be teaching you how to do a scientific grade. Because I'm more a comper than a 3D artist. As you can see, this is all 2D. And we have to assign this, of course, to our mesh. There we go. So if we go to render, we have a nice green circle. Now we're going to make these lines that show, I think, the approach angle of these things that will be invading you. Shift A, select a plane, and we're scaling it down, way down, way down. I'm going to zoom in even to about the same width as this line. Could be a tiny bit smaller, something like that. Okay. Now this is important. We tap into edit mode. In edit mode, I couldn't emphasize this anymore. Grab Y and we pull it up. Now when it's at the location that we want it to be, Control A, tap out of edit mode, Control A, apply rotation and scale. And there we go. Now we're going to apply it around in intervals of 30 degrees. And there is an easy way to do this. We create an empty that we're going to revolve around. Empty. There we go. We select our plane. There it is, that little thingy. We're going to add a array modifier to it. Set the amount to 12 because we want one on every hand of the hour, so to say. Select object and select empty. Now if we go to the empty and we say we rotate this in 30-degree intervals around X, boom, we have our dots, which are still dots, or actually little rectangles. So we go into edit mode, select it, edit mode, select the bottom of it, just the bottom, grab Z and pull it down to the center, not Z, grab Y, and we pull it down into the center. There we go. And now we have our spider web thingy. We give it the same material. Look at that. In rendered view, and that is nice. Yeah. Now we'll add some text to it because this overlay is a bit boring. Shift A. Text. There is the text. Scale it way down. That is far too large. Grab Y. Pull it up. Grab X. So, and grab, by the way, is G. So if I say grab X, it's GX. And this font is not really doing it. It's not really that 70s, 80s style font. So we're going to change the font. Select font here. Go there. Windows. Fonts. Where is fonts? Oh, that's fancy. There. And we go to find what is called Mono 0755. There we go. That is your classic 80s terminal font. That is nice. We give it the same texture. Shift D, grab Z, grab Y. I don't know what I have with Z. Tap. So this obviously is 180 degrees. Tap out of edit mode. Shift D, grab Y, not Z. I wanted to say it again. Grab X, and this is going to be tap 90. Oh, no, enter. tap out of it, Shift D, grab Y, grab Y, sorry, grab X. Blah. This is the third time I'm doing this. I made 2 little mistakes in the previous ones, which would make it very confusing. So this will be 225 if my math suits me correct, but right now I'm doubting of everything. Now there's this little thing in this overlay that I think we may have a problem. That is a bit too big. Now we could select everything and scale it down. Easier way is to grab the camera, grab Z. Now we need a Z, and pull it back just a tiny bit. Look at that. So now we're going to select all these. Actually, I'm going to set this plane. I'm going to rename it to indicator. I don't know what these things are called. My radar knowledge is very, very limited. Indicator. I'm going to apply the array modifier. That way we can delete the empty, and we keep right click, delete. We keep everything what it is. I'm going to select all these, press M, and create a new collection. This is what is called a render layer in the older blenders before 2.8. A collection. Oh, new collection, by the way. M, new collection. And this is the collection is called overlay. So we have an overlay collection, which I'm going to disable the view for now because it would be a bit annoying to see. Now I'm going to make the sweep circle, Scale 0.01, nice and tiny. Tap, E to extrude, scale, and scaling it out. Now I'm going to actually enable the overlay just a bit to see if it, it encompasses it nicely. We could scale it down just a bit to get a little dynamic thing going on. That it's not all exactly the same. So yeah, that looks nice. Now I'm turning off the overlay again, and we're going to unwrap this, and it's actually going to be very easy because it's a 2D plane. Select the edge, right click, mark seam, there we go. Select all the double A, select all the vertices, go to UV edit mode, U follow active quads. Okay. It should have said, why isn't it? Oh, I may need to add a seam in here as well. Alt click, Control E, mark seam, Alt, Control E, mark seam. You, my bad. You first unwrap, then you follow active quads. Scale Y0. Select that ridge, and you select it by holding Alt and clicking on it. SY0. So now we have it nice and flat. Scale the top one up just a bit. Scale this, Alt select, scale that one up so we can fit it into the bounding box. Grab, there we go. Now we need to straighten these lines a bit, and this is a tedious process. Perhaps somebody knows how you can do this quicker in Blender. I have not figured it out, but I will select the edge, right click, and do straighten align auto. There we go. And I go through all of them that way. Right click, alt click, right click, align, alt click, right click, align, alt click, right click, align. You get the gist. And I will go through it in high speed. So that is a repetitive strain injury waiting to happen. Scale it down just a tiny bit so it fits in there. I'm tweaking it to fit the whole area. Okay, something like that, and we will see when we have the image in there, and I will apply that image in the description down below. Radar screen is called Sweep PNG, and it's basically a gradient. It's a very simple texture. It's a gradient from white to black, and I have an extra highlighted white bar that is pure white on that leading edge over there. That is our leading edge of the radar. Now we're going to tweak the texture, and I happen to know, because I did this several times also in other packages. Scale Y, scale X, because I need to have the fall off to be a bit sharper than it is in the texture. Let me put up a rendered view, and we apply a new texture to this. It's also going to be an emission shader, and it's also going to be that green, maybe a bit different, that doesn't really matter. And we're going to select the strength, which comes from an image. Okay, we go to shading editor, Shift A, input, image, Shift A, search, texture, image texture. And the color goes into the strength, and we'll select the sweep. So we have something that is fading off this way, and it's important that it fades off this way and not the other way around. And since we're here anyways, I'm going to add a subsurface so it's nice and smooth, so we have a nice fall off to work with. I'm going to tweak the texture just a bit to get that highlight a bit stronger in there. So take that leading edge, grab X, so, and that second one, I'll bring it in a bit closer so it is more defined. There we go. And maybe all these can be a bit darker. Scale X, grab X, all the way to black. And we can tweak a lot of this in compositing, but this is a perfectly nice sweep circle. I'm going to save because Blender 2.8 is really stable, but it has crashed on me a couple of times. Track, tutorial, radar, tut. Will overwrite the previous one I did. Okay, so we have the radar screen. We go back to the modeling tab. It's the easiest texturing you can ever do. Press M, create a new collection, and we call this sweep. Okay, I'm going to disable that view so it's not that cluttered. And now we're going to make the funny little planes. I'm going to show the overlay for a second so I have a relative scale. And the plane is just a plane. A plane is a plane, and we scale it all the way down. Scale 0.1. Grab. I want it to be here. Actually, I want it to be there to start with. Still a bit big. We'll scale it down. We go into edit mode. Ctrl R. 3 edge loops by rolling up your mouse wheel. Click to convert them. Escape. So they're there. Tap into vertex select mode. Select these two. Grab Y. Hey, I'm not saying Z anymore. Wow. Select the top. S, X, 0. And we have what looks like a paper plane. We're going to give that the same texture as the other screen elements. Scaling it a bit down because it's a bit overly large. Shift D, Shift D. We're going to make a nice formation. And I actually also want to have 2 on the other side. For once I'm the director in the movie, so I can discuss what it's going to look like. Grab. So we're going to keep that just out of view. We're going to select all of these. First we're going to select this little group, Ctrl J them. Press M to move it to a new collection which is called blips. They are called radar blips. We're going to select these two, Ctrl J, and the reason why I group them is that I can move them in the animation in one go, all 4 of them in that case and all 2 of them in this case, because they would be traveling pretty much the same speed for a radar anyways. Move, and we're going to move them to the blips. So if we give it a little overview, yeah, that looks nice. Now we have this milky white background, and that's a bit of an issue because I want to make it a what we call an add composite, which basically means we're going to use an add operator to put it over the black screen. So we have a black screen, we put this over with an add mix, and then we get all the highlights on the screen, all the dirt, we get that for free, and it blends in nicely. Also when somebody is moving along it and you have a shadow of it, it will automatically dim. It's so much easier than alpha in this particular scenario. So we need it to be completely black. We could set the background to black, but just to be really sure it's absolutely black, I'm going to make a plane, scaling it up, grab Z, just move it tiny bit down, give it an emission shader, new emission shader, and if we make it completely black, it is 100% black, and we're saving it, and this is that. Now we're going to set up the render layers, and this is significantly different in Blender 2.8, and I was happy that the Blender Foundation actually put up a little tutorial, because I was finding it very difficult to figure it out on my own. Here are what we call the view layers. I prefer the name render layer, but it does more than just that. So we're going to make 3 of them. One is the overlay. We press a new one, which is called the sweep. And we're going to press a new one, which is going to be the blips. And now we're going to set up the render layer. The collection will always be available in all of them. That's why we put the plane, the black plane, in the collection. So that will be visible or usable in all of them. Don't worry that we don't see them, that comes in compositing. All these things are cut out because they're layers flat on top of each other. But don't worry, that's compositing. For now we're going to set up the render layers. It's a good habit to start from top to finish. This is the overlay. And in the overlay we don't want to see the sweep and the blips. So we select them, select the first one, Shift select the second one, right click view layer, set exclude, or shortcut key E. Then we go to the sweep, and in the sweep we don't need to see the overlay and we don't need to see the blips. So we'll select those with click, shift click, right click, set exclude. And then we have the blips, and when we have the blips we don't need to see the overlay and the sweep, and we select them again, select, shift select the other one, right click, set exclude, or shortcut key E. And we're going to save it again. So that looks pretty decent. Now we can start the animation, the fun part. We're going to start with the sweep, and we're going to go to the animation tab, go to front view. I want to see a texture view, and this is so cool in Evee because it renders real time. We select our sweep, and we're going to insert a keyframe by pressing I, location, rotation. We want to rotate this 3 times in the 10 seconds that we have, assuming we run at 25 frames per second. We go to the end, select our sweep R, the sweep, not the back plane. R. Now, come on. Circle. Was it still in edit mode? No. I don't want to select this. R. What is going on here? We need to figure this one out. Something went wrong when we made this plane. Is it that plane that is showing? Yeah, it definitely is that plane that is showing. Let's see what is happening here. These things happen. I did not expect that to happen though. Sorry. Let's move this plane. Move it to the overlay. Hey. Plane, select. Let's go back to the modeling. I can select it now because I select the plane and move that to the overlay. It's basically the overlay for now, and then I'll move it back to the collection when we start to render. I don't know what is happening here. It shouldn't actually rotate it, but it does for some reason. Because the camera doesn't rotate. Anyways, yeah, we'll continue, we'll do the rotation, and we'll move the plane back and see. And otherwise we'll add a new one. Animation. So we set the first keyframe. Let's do it again. We go back. I, location, rotation. Go back to the end, rotate. And we're going to rotate it 360 times 3. Which gives it a perfect rotation. 3 times I, location, rotation. And this is a weird thing. I don't know if it's a bug, but I encountered it several times. That when you set it, the keyframe, it just doesn't fix it in place. So I go back to the keyframe and do the 1078. Sorry. 3 times 360. What is it? 1080. Yeah. And replace the keyframe. Is it now in place? Yes, now it is in place. It rotates the wrong way around. It needs to actually go that way around. So what we can do, not make it more difficult than it is, grab, we'll switch them around. So now it's rotating the right way around. I don't know what this is in Blender. Perhaps a person that is an animator can tell me. Because I assume if this is set to 0 and this is set to 1080, that it would progress and not go the other way around. It seems like it has a mind of its own. So now it's in a good orientation. And the only thing is that if we play it, we see that it starts off slow. We need to have constant speed. So A to select all the keyframes. Click on Object Transformation, Extrapolation, Linear, boom. And now it's fast. So that is the sweep animation, easy peasy. So just in short, if you have a problem that is rotating the other way, just pick your keyframes, swap them. It's a simple animation. You'll be forgiven for it. And now we're going to do the blips. I'm going to actually switch over. We're on sweep, yeah. What I'm going to do is actually, for now, go back to where we excluded it in the view and clear the exclude so I can see them. The reason why is because we're going to interact with them. So I'm going to select this group and I will set an initial keyframe that we're starting off. I, location, rotation. Then we'll move the timeline forward just before the leading edge is hitting it. I again apply the rotation location. We move forward 1 frame. Grab and, well, we'll move them somewhere here. eye location rotation. Let's see. Oh, that's a massive jump. That's not really something like that. Eye location rotation, is that more? Yeah, that's more convincing. We're holding that, and here that will be showing there. Eye location rotation. So by the next one, next frame forward. Next frame forward. Sorry. That one. I thought that this was one frame, but next keyframe. Sorry. Grab, and we'll move it just a bit. Eye location rotation. So now we have blip. So blip, blip, and we do it again, waiting until it just before it hits. So that will be here. Eye location rotation. Grab, eye location rotation, and for good measure I'm going to keep it until the end of the frame, so on the same location. That's the first group. Now we do the second group of planes. Go back to the beginning, apply the location and rotation, and just before the sweep hits it we set the same location. Then we go one frame further and we grab it and we'll move it in, something like that. Eye location rotation, just before, apply that same location rotation one frame further and we'll move it in just a bit. Eye location rotation, again just before, one frame further, grab. It's going to be attacked in the classic pincer movement. Eye location rotation. In a world. Well, stop. And we go all the way back and we see our handiwork. Bloop. 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 Well, that works, and sound effects are optional. So that is our whole setup. We have set up the render layers, and now that I say that, we need to disable the sweep from the blips from the sweep. We need to disable the blips from the sweep. Ugh, so many details. So there we go. Now we're going to render out the animation, which goes really quickly because this is Evee. We are going to use the OpenEXR multi-layer. And we need to be RGBA. Well, we could get away with RGB. We don't have an alpha, but let's put the A in there. I go and select the designation. No, not in Blender. Footage, under my footage, in the Blender folder there, in the radar screen. I'm going to create a new render. Render 4. Bloop, bloop. Accept. It will give me the keyframe numbers. Now, the reason OpenEXR is basically the industry standard now for compositing. We're going to render these out, and we get one file per frame, and it has the sweep in it, it has the overlay in it, and it has the blips in it. Instead of having 3 times 250 images that you have to wrangle, you only have 250 images. So that's a lot easier in maintenance. And in good compositors like Nuke and Natron, you just import one read node with that EXR and you can select a channel. So it limits the amount of nodes that you have, and especially if you do a lot of 3D and you have your individual render passes, your specular, your AO, your color pass. It is so convenient to have them in a single file instead of having sometimes even 12 files for a single 3D element. So get used to using these. Yes, they are large. So what? We're going to render out this animation, and then in the next episode we will do the compositing, and that's where we get that awesome look. We will mask out these planes automatically. So I hope to see you there. Ctrl F12 and see you later.